Long before there was an England, there was Britain. This island, shrouded in mist and mystery, was home to ancient peoples we know little about. They left behind tantalizing clues, none more famous than Stonehenge. Stonehenge, built over many centuries starting around 3000 BC, still stands on Salisbury Plain. The ancient Britons who built it must have been clever and determined, moving huge stones for miles. How did they do it? We're still not sure, but it probably involved lots of people, rollers made of logs and strong ropes. But why did they build Stonehenge? Again, we can only guess. It might have been a place of healing, a giant calendar, or a place to worship ancestors or study the stars. Whatever its purpose, Stonehenge shows us that the early Britons were organized, spiritual, and had a deep understanding of their world. As the centuries passed, new peoples came to Britain like the Celts around 500 BC, bringing iron tools, weapons, and new customs. In 43 AD, everything changed. The Romans, led by Emperor Claudius, invaded Britain with their mighty legions. The Celts fought bravely, but they were no match for Roman military might. Within a few decades, most of Britain was under Roman control. The Romans transformed Britain, building straight roads, founding cities like Londinium, London, and Eboracum, York, and introducing writing, new foods, and their own gods. In 60 AD, a warrior queen named Boudica led a fierce rebellion, burning Londinium to the ground and defeating a Roman legion. But in the end, Roman discipline and superior weapons won the day. The Romans ruled Britain for nearly 400 years, building Hadrian's Wall to keep out the fierce Picts from Scotland. They mined for lead and tin, grew crops, and raised sheep, making Roman Britain a prosperous part of a vast empire. By the early 5th century, the Roman Empire was crumbling. The legions left Britain to defend Rome itself, leaving the Britons to fend for themselves. The Roman legacy, however, remained. After the Romans left, Britain entered a period often called the Dark Ages. New invaders arrived, the Anglo-Saxons from Germany and Denmark. They settled in Britain, pushing the native Britons westward and forming several kingdoms. The most powerful was Wessex, ruled by kings like Alfred the Great. The Anglo-Saxons gave us the English language and the idea of England as a single country. But their rule was challenged in 1066 by William, Duke of Normandy. William claimed that the last Anglo-Saxon king, Edward the Confessor, had promised him the throne. When Edward died and Harold Godwinson became king instead, William was furious. William invaded England with a powerful army. On October 14, 1066, the two forces met at the Battle of Hastings. It was a close fight, but in the end William won, earning the nickname William the Conqueror. The Norman conquest changed England forever, bringing new language, laws, and a new system of government. The Middle Ages in England were a time of great change and drama. Kings fought with nobles and the church for power. The Magna Carta in 1215 limited the king's power. England fought long wars, like the 100 Years' War with France. The famous victory at Agincourt in 1415 saw King Henry V defeat a larger French army. The Middle Ages also saw advances in learning and culture. Universities were founded, and Gothic cathedrals like York Minster were built. In 1348, disaster struck England. A terrible plague known as the Black Death arrived from Europe, killing rich and poor alike. In some places, half the population died, and whole villages were wiped out. With so many people dead, there weren't enough workers to farm the land, giving the surviving peasants more power. They could demand better pay and conditions, weakening the old feudal system. The Black Death also changed how people thought about life and death. Art and literature began to show more everyday scenes, not just religious subjects. The English language grew in importance, replacing French as the language of government and literature. But the plague's effects weren't all positive. Some people blamed Jews or foreigners for the disease, leading to persecution. The church lost some of its authority when its prayers failed to stop the plague. The Black Death was a turning point in English history, marking the end of the medieval world and the beginning of new ways of thinking and living. As England recovered from the Black Death, a new crisis emerged. Two powerful families, the houses of Lancaster and York, began fighting for the throne. This conflict, known as the Wars of the Roses, lasted from 1455 to 1487. It got its name from the symbols of the two houses, a red rose for Lancaster and a white rose for York. The wars were complex, with many twists and turns. Kings were crowned and then deposed, and battles were won and lost. One of the most dramatic moments came in 1471 at the Battle of Tewkesbury, where the Yorkist king Edward IV defeated the Lancastrians. But the fighting wasn't over. In 1485, Henry Tudor, a distant Lancastrian relative, invaded England and met Richard III in battle at Bosworth Field. Against the odds, Henry won, and Richard was killed, the last English king to die in battle. Henry became King Henry VII, founding the Tudor dynasty and uniting the two warring houses. The Wars of the Roses were over, but their impact on England would last for generations. The Tudor period from 1485 to 1603 is often called England's Golden Age. Henry VII brought peace and stability after years of war. Henry VIII is famous for his 6 wives and breaking with the Roman Catholic Church. He made himself head of the Church of England, starting the English Reformation. Elizabeth's reign was the longest and most glorious. She defeated the Spanish Armada in 1588, making England a great sea power. Under Elizabeth, English culture flourished with writers like Shakespeare. When Elizabeth died in 1603, she left behind a transformed country.